the day my husband's visa was approved. I found out he was about to be sent abroad for a 5-year assignment. I was shaking with anger, suppressing my emotions in front of our 2 children and elders. It wasn't until the day before he left that I finally got a chance to talk to him alone. His first words were, "I'm afraid you'll stop me. I don't want to give up this opportunity. So what do you want me to do? Take care of 2 kids alone and look after your parents? Just hold on, Emma. Think of it as doing it for me and the children. After this trip, things will be different. At least I'll be promoted to Deputy General Manager. During these 5 years abroad, I get 15 days of leave every year. And I'll definitely come back to see you all. The salary will be paid both at home and abroad." No matter how much I reasoned and pleaded, he left home punctually at 7 a.m. the next day and set off on his overseas assignment. The first message he received after landing was my divorce agreement, and the first message he got upon returning home 5 years later was my wedding invitation. Chapter 1. The visa was found in the car. I have a habit of putting money in envelopes for emergencies. I casually opened one of the 2 envelopes and saw the visa inside. I felt puzzled, especially since it was for Russia. Everyone knows Russia has been at war. Going there now was like courting disaster. There were also some thin papers inside, an invitation letter and some proof of personal identification. Each paper had the name Luis on it. Luis is my husband. We've been married for 12 years and have a 6-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter. The invitation clearly stated that from the 1st of next month, Mr. Luis would be officially employed as the chief engineer of the group's Russian branch for a 5-year term. It was already the 24th, meaning he would be on a plane to Russia before the month ended. And I, as his wife, had no idea. When I threw the visa in front of Luis, his face instantly went pale. He immediately ran over to our daughter playing with blocks alone and said, "Luna, come here. Daddy will play with you." It's not done like that. He knew me too well. He knew I wouldn't argue with him in front of the children and elders. So, in the following days, I never got a chance to speak to him alone. He was either coaxing our daughter, putting our son to bed, or chatting with his parents. On the last night before he left, he handed the kids over to the elders, then quietly sat by my bedside, silently looking at me. We had been together since we were 20, married at 23. Known each other for 15 years, but that night was the first time I realized how selfish he could be. His first words were, "I'm afraid you'll stop me. I don't want to give up this opportunity." I was furious. "So what do you want me to do? Take care of 2 kids alone and look after your parents? Hold on, Emma. Do it for me and the kids. After this trip, things will be different. I'll at least be Deputy General Manager. During these 5 years, I get 15 days off a year. And I'll come back to see you. The salary will be paid both domestically and internationally." Chapter 2. Hold on? How do you expect me to hold on? You say it so lightly. Our son just started 1st grade. All his study and life habits need to get on track. He needs to adapt. And the family must cooperate too. It's not an easy task. He needs to be picked up, dropped off, and tutored. Our daughter just started kindergarten. She hasn't developed a sense of rules yet. Many things require adjustment. Have you forgotten all the troubles in kindergarten? I spent 3 years making our son's growth journal and helping with crafts. What did you say back then? You said you would take care of everything for our daughter. Others have elderly relatives to help. But your parents moved in to retire when they were just 50. The monthly expenses for living in medical care are not small. And I've never complained. But now, for your personal development, without consulting me, you want to dump this responsibility on me. Luis, you are not only selfish but also cruel. My emotions flared. My voice got louder. Outside, Luis's mother was knocking. "Emma, please talk to Luis nicely. Don't shout so loud. Luis is a man, and it's not right for you to scold him like this. Besides, it's already 10 at night. The kids are asleep. Don't wake them up. Or if they do wake, you carry and take care of them yourself." My back hurts so much. Luis immediately said, "Mom, I'm discussing something with Emma. Please go back to your room." His mother muttered, "Can't say a word," and left. I sneered at Luis. Behind him was a mirror, and I saw my own harsh and bitter expression. Suddenly, I thought of a saying, "You give life the face you show it, and life will give you back the same." I thought, how fitting. But all this was thanks to the man in front of me. The culprit could still calmly analyze 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with me. Chapter 3. Emma, you know how bad the environment back home is. For the past 3 years, our company has been optimizing every year, especially mid-management. The older they get, the higher their salaries, and every layoff has me on edge. Your job is stable, but no matter how stable, the salary is barely a drop in the bucket for this family. As time goes on, our parents' health will deteriorate. Oscar and Luna's education resources also need to keep up. If I don't push myself now, what will happen to this family? You say I'm selfish because I focus on my career development, but isn't my career development for the family? I just want to provide a better life for you and the kids, and make sure both our parents have care in their old age. So eloquent. Too eloquent. Our small family isn't wealthy, but we live comfortably. I have worked at a state-owned enterprise for over 10 years, steadily climbing the ranks. My direct supervisor is retiring early due to health, and I'm his favored successor preparing to transfer. Luis's career just started improving 2 years ago. Before that, I was the main breadwinner paying the mortgage and car loan. I don't know why my income, which is over $10,000, suddenly seems insignificant to him. Maybe he hasn't enjoyed the internet boom like I have, but I've worked hard and cared for the family. How did my contribution become a drop in the bucket? In the end, his ambition or wish to work abroad doesn't matter. What hurts is that he never respected me. And before dumping all this mess on me, he didn't even discuss it with me. I asked him, "Do your parents know you're going abroad, and that it's a war zone?" Chapter 4. He shook his head and said, "I didn't tell them. Their health isn't good. It's better not to worry them. Although it's Russia, it's not in a war zone. It's very safe. I'll just tell them I'm on a business trip within the country. So if I hadn't found out that day, you were planning to tell me tonight, right?" He lowered his head and remained silent, passively resisting without a word. I looked into the mirror again and forced a difficult smile. I told myself, not worth it. This man really isn't worth it. He's selfish, cowardly, weak, and irresponsible. After all these years pretending to be a good man, once his own interests clash, he's willing to sacrifice everyone and everything. I pulled the blanket over me, lay down, and muffled my voice under the cover, since nothing can stop you or change your mind. Then fine, I wish you well. Tonight, I want to sleep alone. You go to the study. I felt him standing by the bed for a long time. Only after he thought I was really asleep did he quietly open the door and leave. The next day, I woke up at 6:30, made breakfast for the kids, took them to school, and when I got home at 8 to prepare for work, Luis had already left. His suitcase was gone, and half his wardrobe was empty. Luis's mother saw me staring blankly at the empty closet and said, "Luis went on a business trip. Remember to call and check on him. He's having a hard time alone. Last night I saw him alone in the study, the light on all night. When you got up early and made breakfast, it was so loud it could wake the whole building. You didn't see the dark circles under Luis's eyes. It's scary." Chapter 5. I was raised to never show an attitude to elders. In our 4th year of marriage, after I gave birth to our son Oscar, his parents moved in with us under the pretense of helping with the kids. The first month, they occasionally held the kids, but his mother kept complaining about back pain, and his father had old knee injuries and couldn't do anything. So basically, they didn't help much, and Luis ended up constantly running errands for them. Despite this, over the years living together, I never argued with them. When I heard his mother say those things, thinking about Luis's irresponsible face, I immediately said, "It's fine. No one will bother him anymore. Also, if you and Dad are uncomfortable, you can go back to the hometown. I can't change the kids' schedule. I can't let them skip school." After saying this, I grabbed my commuter bag and left. Before closing the door, I heard the old lady mumbling, "Why such a bad temper? What kind of life is Luis having here? It's miserable." Before I even arrived at work, Luis called. He was probably already at the airport, with loud noises around and the typical airport announcements. "Why did you kick Mom back to the hometown during the day when you and the kids are not home? They can take care of themselves. At night they can help you with the kids. Isn't that good?" There's no heating back home. And mom doesn't get along with auntie. They quarrel all day. If something bad happens, we'll have to take care of them. Emma, you're a filial person. You can tolerate your parents' behavior and still care for them. How much more so for my parents, who are kind. This sentence stabbed my heart like a sharp knife. That hellish life at home suddenly flashed through my mind, almost causing me to lose control of the steering wheel on my way to work. Chapter 6. I am the only daughter in my family. A title that usually invites envy. But my life hasn't been good because my parents are deeply biased towards boys. The only reason I became the only child is that the policy at the time forbade having more than one child. And both my parents worked within the system. No one wanted to risk losing their jobs by having extra children. By the time the two-child policy was introduced, both had lost the ability to conceive. My mother sighed endlessly, lamenting that she was born in the wrong era. My father was even worse. He kept a mistress just 2 years older than me, trying to prove he was still potent. After so many years, that woman still hasn't had any children. And my mother even generously said that if she had a son, she would bring him to me to raise. Because she had no son of her own, my mother focused all her attention on her nephew. My father had to juggle between my mother and the other family, stretched too thin. In this environment, I was left to grow up largely on my own and, due to long-term neglect, my life became quite twisted. It wasn't until my father was swindled out of a large sum by his mistress, and my mother was cut off after transferring the house to her nephew, that they remembered me, the daughter of Luis. Unable to contact me, they went straight to court. I provided ample evidence to the court showing how poorly I was raised, and the court finally ruled that when they retired, they would pay me a minimal living allowance of less than 500 yuan per month. I had no choice but to agree. Is this what Luis calls forgiving without grudges? Perhaps my silence made Luis realize something. He then tried to make amends by saying, "That's not what I meant, Emma. What I want to say is, you've always been a particularly kind person. So what does a particularly kind person get? Parental neglect? Husband's contempt? And scorn from in-laws? If so, I'd rather never be kind again in this life." Chapter 7. The first thing I did when I got to the company was to draft a divorce agreement for myself. As soon as it was revised, I sent it to Luis, who was already on the plane. After that, I threw myself fully into my work. There was a lot of complicated procurement work, but I was experienced enough, more than 10 years in the field, to finish my tasks perfectly despite having a heavy heart. Luis must have received the divorce agreement the moment he landed, but he didn't reply. After I finished work and picked up the kids, I overheard Luis video calling his parents. The two children immediately rushed over, chatting animatedly with him. I was in the kitchen cooking and listening to an online class. I didn't even notice when Luis's mother came in. She reached out and turned off my video. I turned around and saw her. She frowned and said, "What class is that again? You're so busy every day. You can't even focus on cooking." No wonder. Even though I've been here so long, I've never seen any improvement in your cooking skills. If you have nothing to do, please go out. This kitchen is small, and 2 people here make it cramped. Emma, it seems I didn't know you well enough. When Luis was at home, you were always nice to us. But now he's gone. You're showing your true colors. I turned off the stove and asked, "What do you want?" "If it's nothing, I have to feed the kids," she said angrily. "I heard Luis wants a divorce. I'm here to persuade you, don't let go of my son. He's a golden opportunity. You're not young anymore. It'll be hard to find another successful man like him. He's going abroad to polish his resume. He can find any young girl he wants over there. And you'll regret it." I originally didn't want to respond, but this made me pause. I asked, "Do you know he's going abroad?" Chapter 8. His mother first gave me a disdainful look, then spoke casually. "Of course he told me. How could he not? Nobody in our family has worked abroad before. It's such an honor for the family." Your father was ecstatic. He said to me not to tell you that I knew, that he feared you'd feel inferior. Your family seems all bright and splendid, with educated and high-ranking parents. But what use is that? Do they support your little family even a bit? Your own work is just average. Everyone knows state enterprises are struggling and laying off people. After saying this, she glanced at me again, I see you don't understand any good advice. So I won't say more. Your little couple's matters aren't mine to meddle in anyway. Everyone has their own fate. You two just go with the flow. Ha! So his parents knew all along, and they kept it from me all this time? Perfect. I took the food out, set the kids to eat, then went to my room and called Luis. He only answered on the third call. He tried to cover. I was just in a meeting, assigning tasks for tomorrow. I gave him no face. Weren't you just video calling your parents? Now it's my turn to be in a meeting? Can avoiding the problem solve it? After a pause, he said, Emma, about the overseas assignment. I admit I wronged you. I apologize, but we are married. Any decision I make is based on thinking about our future and my complete trust in you. I interrupted immediately. Because you trust me so much, you discuss with your parents and not with me? He was stunned. What? Don't play dumb. Tell me your parents didn't know you were going abroad when you all had this plan together. My children and I are outsiders in this family. Or is it that since you knew I have 2 kids holding me back, you figured I'd never leave, so you didn't need to consider me at all? Chapter 9. As I spoke more aggressively, his voice also rose. How am I not considering you all? If it weren't for you, how could I have come abroad? Do you know how harsh the environment here is? And what do you do when I get off the plane? Send me a divorce agreement. You really are something. Emma, I never realized you were so fragile. Stop wasting time. The divorce agreement has been sent. Sign it quickly when you're back on leave. You can come get the certificate. Luis was provoked by my cold tone. He said, You're dreaming. I will never divorce you. Don't even think there'll be a day you ask me for it. After the call, I found he stopped all the monthly funds we'd saved for the kids. It wasn't much. Scattered bits adding up to around 30 or 40,000. He changed the permissions and transferred all the money away. I suddenly understood what he meant. He wanted to punish me financially. How laughable. Having lived so many years, I realized faces have many sides. Just as I'd realized his selfishness, he showed me again his extreme shamelessness. Then he sent me a message. Since you want a divorce, the salary I promised you won't be given until you agree not to divorce. A minute later he added, Of course, since you now agree not to divorce but still scold me, I won't give you the money immediately. I want to see if you're serious. After all, you've already started thinking about divorce. Money is the worst thing in this world. It makes a marriage end up just a game of benefits. I looked at the promotion notice that just came through the system, clicked in to confirm my future salary increase, a 35% raise from before, and made up my mind. Money is also the best thing in this world. It lets a mother avoid struggling when she faces her 2 children. Chapter 10. Life was proceeding steadily. I was thriving in my new position, thanks in part to my former boss who had arranged everything for me before retiring. On the weekend, I took the kids to visit him in the hospital. To my surprise, I ran into an old classmate, Oliver, who was my class monitor in high school. It turned out he was the nephew of my old boss. He smiled and told my boss, Emma was my classmate in high school. My boss smiled even more happily. I know. Emma even came to your house for dinner back then. Among all the girls, she stood out the most. And you kept hanging around her. Your mom was thrilled. Said you finally grew up and called me upstairs to see. I didn't remember this at all, working with this boss for so many years. He never mentioned it. Oliver smiled calmly. Yeah, I never expected that after all these years, she'd still stand out in a crowd. I saw her as soon as she entered the hospital. The kids are all so beautiful too. After that, he took 2 red envelopes from his pocket and gave one each to my son and daughter. Actually, I hadn't seen him since graduating high school. I heard he went abroad right after graduation and hadn't returned for many years. We kept some contact on QQ at first, but gradually it lessened and stopped after switching to WeChat. The kids were well behaved, only taking the envelopes after I nodded and then thanked Uncle. Oliver smiled. They really look like you when you were little. Many people around say they resemble me, but I don't really feel it myself. My boss nearby said. So, seeing old classmates all settled with kids. Jealous? I kept urging you to get married, but you wouldn't. Now you can only envy others' kids. Oliver was unusually cheerful today, making me recall that ambitious young man from more than a decade ago. When leaving, he politely asked, "Need a ride? Is it convenient driving with 2 kids?" Convenient. They have safety seats and are well behaved. Chapter 11. No matter how well behaved children are, they still get sick. It was rare that both kids got sick at the same time. A fierce flu hit, and nobody knew who infected whom. Luis's mother nagged. "You insisted on going to the hospital to see that boss. You went. But why take the kids along? They must have gotten infected there." Luis's father spoke fairly. "That was a week ago. Oscar and Luna probably caught it at school. So many kids in one class. It's unavoidable." What was harder was that after caring tirelessly for them 2 days straight, I fell ill too. At night I woke with a terrible headache. My temperature was nearly 40 degrees Celsius. After taking fever medicine, I fell asleep, but woke up worse the next morning. Luis's mother, noticing my muffled voice, put on a mask and said, "We elderly have weak health and need to keep distance from you. You stay in the bedroom with the kids and don't come out." I hadn't even gotten the chance to ask her to help care for the kids while I went to the hospital for N4 when she cut me off. Luis must have heard the kids were sick because he made a rare video call. Luna, the younger one, normally clingy with Dad, was even more spoiled due to the cold, and started acting cute through the phone. "Daddy, I feel awful. When will you come home? Grandma won't let us go to the living room because we might infect her." Luis pitied her. "Why did you suddenly get so sick? Is it because Mom didn't take care of you well?" Luna sniffled. "Mom is sick too. She's worse than us. She even has a fever," Oscar said beside her. "Mom got sick because she was taking care of us." Luis hummed. "Of course she has to take care of you. Then why doesn't Dad come back to care for us? Before, when Luna and I were sick, you helped Mom take care of us." Luis was silent for a moment, then said, "Dad's out earning money for my babies." Chapter 12. Luna innocently asked, "Does he make a lot of money?" Luis laughed. "Of course." Unexpectedly, Oscar chimed in, "Then why not hire a nanny for the house?" Before I could react, this 6-year-old boy began to reason very clearly. "Mom has to work, take care of me and Luna, and also look after Grandpa and Grandma. She's just too busy. Since Dad is going out to make lots of money, he should hire a nanny." Luis's face darkened, and with a serious and pointed tone, he asked, "Who taught you these things? What does a little kid like you know about nannies?" Oscar replied, "What's there not to know? Back in kindergarten, lots of my classmates were picked up by nannies. Now in 1st grade, 2 kids in the class have nannies. Others have grandparents helping." I almost cried, surprised at how sensible he was. I felt both bitter and proud. Luis jumped up, angry. "We don't have the means for that," Oscar calmly said. "Then why does Dad go so far away? He's not even making that much money." Luis said sharply into the phone, "Emma, if you keep educating the kids like this when I'm not home, then go ahead and play with them. Can't we talk like adults, using kids as weapons?" I took the phone from Oscar's hand, switched the video to audio, and turned off the speaker. "I have nothing to discuss with you. If anything, it's that you sign the divorce papers and send them back to me. Are you crazy? Why say that in front of the kids?" "Because the kids have already learned a lot from what you've done. We can't just pretend we don't see it. Also, ignoring my messages won't make anything disappear. I've sent you 3 messages asking you to get your parents to go back to their hometown. I'm not superhuman. I can't handle them all." Chapter 13. Luis got even angrier when he heard this. Why should they go back? The house was bought by their son. Can't they live there? Besides, do they really need you to take care of them? They have hands and feet, cook and wash by themselves every day. Do they really need you? I said each word carefully. Your parents have their breakfast ready every morning, then get up and fight with the kids for food. If I make less, the kids go hungry. They never wash their lunch bowls, waiting until I need the sink to wash before dinner. They never cook for themselves at night. Just wait for me to finish cooking and then take their bowls. Don't you know how much trash 2 adults make at home? When you're home, have you ever seen them take out the trash? So tell me, is that what you call not needing me? Emma, I never expected you to be so cold-blooded. I've only been abroad a few days, and you can already throw my parents out after all these years of marriage. Luis, I need to remind you, you've been away from home for almost half a year. During this time, all household expenses have been paid by me, including all costs for the kids and your parents' living expenses. So who is really cold-blooded here? Luis hung up immediately. A few minutes later, there was noise at the door as if someone was rummaging through things. Oscar peeked out, then quietly said, "It's Grandma." I already knew what she was up to. Her son must have told her what I said, and she was using the opportunity to lash out. When I stepped out, the old lady was cursing and packing. Seeing me, she immediately scolded. "You have no manners. Luis's father and I worked hard to raise such an excellent university student, and now he married someone as cold-hearted as you. Our family is unlucky. When Luis comes back from abroad, the first thing he'll do is divorce you." I found it hilarious. What era do you think we're living in? That you can divorce me? If anyone files for divorce first, they hold the upper hand. Don't forget to tell your son I already divorced him, just need him to sign. The old lady was speechless. Chapter 14. Since Luis's parents moved back to the countryside, my life suddenly became more comfortable. Although the 2 kids and work took up almost all my time, I still felt hopeful about life. The next year came quickly. It had been a year since Luis went abroad, but he still hadn't taken the annual leave he promised the kids. When asked, it was always too busy. No time. When asked again, airfare is too expensive. Better wait for the off-season. At first, the kids kept talking about missing Dad, but over time, they mentioned it less and less. Even when they video called, they weren't very close. One day, Luis suddenly said happily to me, "Emma, how much do you think our house is worth now?" I hadn't really been paying attention to him, so my first reaction was to ignore him. But he said, "I want to sell the house and buy one where I am. You, Oscar, and Luna can all come here. Then I'll send the kids to study in Europe or the US, so they don't have to compete so harshly back home, like we struggled when we studied." I was baffled and said, "Can you think before you speak? Not to mention the housing prices have fallen badly here. Selling now is like cutting off your own flesh. Also, can you please stop including me in your plans? We still have a year until the divorce." He sighed helplessly. "Can you stop talking about divorce all the time? Aren't you tired of it? It's been so long. Haven't you suffered enough raising 2 kids alone? Let me tell you, if you divorce me, you'll have to live like this forever. Can you handle that?" Whether I can handle it is my business. If I can give birth, I can raise them. I'm more of a person than you. You just threw the whole family behind and ran off for your career. Hope you don't regret it someday. Chapter 15. When Luis had been abroad for 2 full years, I filed for divorce in court. Based on the fact of separation and some evidence I provided about the broken marriage, the court ruled in favor of divorce, considering Luis's temporary inability to return due to the Russia-Ukraine war. And after consulting the children, I obtained custody of both kids. Luis couldn't come back because the war had affected the city he lived in. His signal was unstable in the war zone, and it wasn't unusual for him to be unreachable for days. His parents, seeing the news and unable to contact him, naturally became anxious. They came to our home, but after finding the door code changed by me, they called me incessantly. At the time, I was at a playground with the kids, and Oliver was there with some relatives' kids. When I answered the phone, I said, "Luis and I are divorced. He doesn't have to report to me where he is. He disappeared while on a business trip. You can contact his company or just call the police." After hanging up, Oliver looked very surprised and pointed at the 2 kids playing in the park, saying, "Divorced? I thought you 2 loved each other and wanted kids. You should be very happy. I'm actually a rather solitary person and don't have many close friends." Oliver's question suddenly made me want to talk more. I also thought we had a good relationship, and we both liked kids. After having 2 children, I felt like the happiest person alive. But I really didn't expect him to choose his career over family without hesitation. He went abroad to gain experience. The company promised him a promotion to deputy general manager after 5 years if he returned. Actually, if he had talked to me first, I might have agreed after careful thought. But he didn't. He prepared everything and only told me before leaving. It was when the tears came that I felt my grievances finally poured out. Chapter 16. For 2 whole years, I spun like a top, never stopping. Not a single day of real rest or a moment that truly belonged to me. Until just now. Seeing Oliver's concerned look, I finally lost composure, somewhat embarrassed. I took the tissue he handed me and heard him say, "I'm not good at comforting people, but I understand what you mean. In a marriage, love and respect must coexist." Maybe his intentions included consideration for you and the kids, but he never truly respected you. I often watch the kids and wonder if my decisions are right. He looked at me deeply and said, "Believe me, everyone who loves you thinks your choices are right, including the children. They love you so much. Here, all these kids are playing wildly, but they keep coming back every few minutes to check on their mom." I hadn't noticed this detail, but hearing him say it, I gradually observed it too. I almost wanted to cry again but didn't want to lose composure in front of an old classmate. "You're still exactly the same as before." I forced a smile. "What was I like before?" He said, "Proud and beautiful." "Well, then I'll take that as a compliment." Without hesitation, he said, "I was complimenting you." Since marriage, few men had praised me so openly, and my face couldn't help but flush. When Oscar came over again, he whispered, "Mom, are you hot? Why is your face so red?" I just wanted to disappear. Oliver naturally talked to me about his current life. A few years ago I was abroad. My mom couldn't reach me, so when I came back, she kept setting me up on blind dates. At first, she thought I could get a goddess, but now her only requirement is that the woman is younger than me. I couldn't help but laugh. "Your mom is so cute," he said helplessly. "Cute? She's driving me crazy." Chapter 17. That night, he brought along his relatives' kids, and I brought Oscar and Luna. We had a simple dinner together. When it was time to leave, the kids said their goodbyes. He said to me, "Actually, I told my mom I reunited with the girl I like." I looked up and smiled. "That's good. Your mom must be very happy." "Indeed. And she told me that there aren't many people in life who truly match your heart. If you've missed a chance once and have another chance, you have to seize it." I deeply agreed and nodded repeatedly. "So, Emma, do you know I've always liked you?" I froze. That sentence echoed in my mind until I went to sleep. It was thunderous yet deeply moving. If he had confessed to me back then, I probably would have been excited and accepted. But now, at 37, with 2 children and a failed marriage, even simple liking felt like a kind of desecration. "You don't have to answer me right now." I just felt that at this moment. I had to say something, "So you'd know I don't only want to be your old classmate or good friend." Even though he said this at the end, I felt the pressure intensely. I didn't have time to think more about Oliver and me, because Luis's mother, unable to find Luis, showed up directly at my office. When I brought them into my large private office, Luis's mother was surprised. "You've been promoted?" I sneered. "How can I not be? Raising 2 kids? Especially when your son contributes nothing." She looked a bit embarrassed and said, "He didn't mean it. Being alone abroad, he must be saving some money for himself. It's not as convenient as here in the country." I didn't want to hear their nonsense and asked, "What do you want?" She hurriedly said, "We can't reach Luis. The company said there's war, and they can sometimes contact him by email. My husband and I don't understand this. Besides, it's not a proud matter and not something we want the village to know. Could you help us by contacting him?" Chapter 18. I really didn't want to get involved in this mess, but the old lady suddenly broke down crying in front of me. I didn't want to disturb my colleagues or become the subject of office gossip, so I agreed. When I opened my inbox, there were emails from Luis waiting for me. 2 emails. One was an apology letter, expressing regret for his selfish decision at the time and asking for my forgiveness. The other was a will, containing all his domestic and international bank accounts and passwords, and a request that I take care of his parents. I printed the email full of account numbers and passwords and handed it to his parents. "Here, your son's accounts and passwords." His mother acted like she was holding a hot potato and immediately asked, "Why would he tell you this so openly?" "It's not safe abroad." He said in the email he's injured. The reason he hasn't come back yet is because his contract isn't over. He's afraid that if he returns early, the headquarters might not fulfill its promises. Of course, The current situation means it's not easy to come back immediately. It requires the right timing. She only heard the word injured and nothing else. She grabbed my hand, screaming, "How could he be injured?" I shrugged. Being injured in a war zone is quite normal. The fact that he could send this email to let us know he's safe is already good. The old lady was terrified and tearful but still insulted me. "You women are truly heartless. After all these years married, with 2 kids, you don't even worry about him. His fate is in his own hands." I tried to stop him, but to no avail. Whatever he is suffering now is what he deserves. Isn't it? Chapter 19. The next message from him came 2.5 years later. By then, he had been abroad for 4.5 years, with only half a year left on his assignment. After landing, he called me on a domestic number to report he was safe. The first thing he said was, "Emma, let's remarry. After all I've been through abroad, in every dangerous moment, the only thing I could think of was you and the kids." I glanced at Oliver and told Luis on the phone, "Sorry, I'm getting married. If you have time, you're welcome to come to the wedding." After hanging up, Oliver joked beside me, "I know, you're using me as a shield again. It's fine. I'm just a grass boat. Let those arrows come faster and stronger." Over the years, when my parents heard about my divorce, they started pushing to set me up again. Knowing I wouldn't respond, they got some relatives who still kept in touch with me to try to mediate. I didn't want to follow my parents' wishes, nor put the elders in a difficult position, so I always said I was preparing a wedding with my boyfriend. In fact, we had only been together for half a year and I wasn't ready to remarry. I was already disappointed enough with marriage and didn't want Oliver to experience the same disappointment. But this time I told him, "I'm serious." He jumped up from his chair, ran over to hug me, then rushed into the house shouting, "Oscar, Luna, Emma finally agreed to marry me." I saw the 2 kids run out from their rooms to him, each giving him a big kiss. After that, Luis never contacted me again. However, the child support he promised before the divorce was paid in full when he returned to the country. Luis sent the kids phone watches, saying it was to keep in touch with them. Of course, I had no reason to stop it and was happy not to be the messenger between them. Their interest in the new electronic gadgets indeed made their communication more frequent. That September, Oscar officially became a 6th grader, and Luna entered 2nd grade. Their busy schoolwork left little time for other things. Occasionally, Luis's mother called to accuse me of blocking the children's contact with their biological father. I didn't argue, because she had already made up her mind and didn't need my explanation. Later, I learned something that made me understand why they kept testing me to see if I would give them custody of Oscar. If not, Luna would do. Luis was injured in Russia and likely would never be able to have children again in his life. Except for Oscar and Luna. No wonder he was so generous with the money. And no wonder he kept in frequent contact. One day after school, I asked the 2 kids if they wanted to change their last name. Oscar asked, "Is it to take Oliver's last name?" Oliver patted his head and said, "You are the child your mom risked her life to give birth to. Of course you should take your mom's last name." "Okay," the 2 kids said in unison.